residential. She can't find maintenance people.
All right, so maybe we just get started. It's 11 o'clock. Hello all, my name's Daniel Gutierrez. I'm the director for the New Mexico Main Street program. Are we recording this yet, Lucas?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay, great, thank you. Welcome all. I appreciate you guys taking the time to just join us real quick, and I certainly appreciate your interest in either the Frontier and Native American Communities Initiative or the Urban Neighborhood Commercial Corridor Initiative, which is a new pilot program that we'll talk about in a few minutes. I just want to introduce myself. Lucas Pedras is with us as well. He's our New Mexico Main Street project coordinator, so he helps me coordinate a lot of these programs, our capital outlay program, and some of our other funding initiatives. Just give you guys a little background on the Economic Development Department. We are a program of the New Mexico Economic Development Department, and the overall goal for the department itself is creating and maintaining a competitive environment to create jobs, increase the tax base, and provide critical resources for business development. And so many of you that are familiar with our program or department, we primarily, most of our incentives are focused on economic base, economic development, but we're one of the few within the department that really focuses more on community development, smaller scale downtown revitalization. And the New Mexico Main Street program itself, it's been around for 36 years. So we've done a lot of projects. I think we had our 35th anniversary last year and a half ago, and I think we had counted, we've been in 86 communities so far throughout New Mexico in that 36 years. So it's really exciting to be able to work everywhere and just help on some of the downtown revitalization work that we can provide services to, and I think is needed throughout the state. But also our core objective, as I said, is downtown revitalization and redevelopment, and we do it in three different ways. We really like to focus on building capacity at the local level. We are kind of like more of a versus a top-down program. It's more of a bottom-up approach where we support community economic development through services and helping local community members and local government partners engage in the development process. So we believe it's important for community members and stakeholders to have a say in how things go and actually participate in that process. We also focus on enhancing the entrepreneurial and creative economy. As I said, our department itself primarily focuses on economic base, but we think there's a huge opportunity, especially in rural and even neighborhood sized communities, to focus on, the creative economy and bringing in new entrepreneurs to fill in these spaces versus bringing in these big companies that may not be good fits in many of our communities. And the third is really creating thriving places in New Mexico, focusing on place, creative placemaking, the visual appeal, having events and other things, programming going on that bring people back downtown. We are the New Mexico Main Street is our core program, but we do administer other programs as well. The Frontier Native American Communities Initiative is one. Our new Neighborhoods Corridor one. We also have 12 arts and cultural districts throughout the state. We've in the past, I think we've done or completed 28 Frontier Native American community projects over the past 8 years. And we also have a historic theater initiative where we focus on restoring historic theaters, mainly helping rural communities that are going to go dark with upgrading their digital projection and sound up to current levels. This is a map of all the communities we've been in. Many of them are active. Some, I think the red ones are ones that are No, not the red ones. Some of them are completed projects that were done in the past. I'm going to turn it over to Lucas just to talk a little bit about both the initiatives that we have the application open for. Go ahead, Lucas.
Hello, everybody. So, the state legislator established the Frontier Native Community Initiative in 2013. This is sort of to distinguish from our full-fledged Main Street programs. Our Main Street programs are with us every year, and they work on a variety of projects, and there's a lot more involved to it. This is set up for communities that are a little bit smaller and maybe doesn't have the sort of local capacity yet to start a full-fledged Main Street program. And at the moment, we're currently aren't accepting any new communities for our Main Street program. But this is a good way for folks who are interested in becoming eventually a full Main Street program. They can get sort of their feet wet and understand how our process and strategy works. But really, these are for communities that have less than 15,000 residents. This is a way for us to be able to still provide resources to communities that are ready for a full Main Street program to focus on a catalytic economic development project in a traditional business district. With this kind of designation, you will receive the kind of professional services and technical assistance that are available through our program for 12 to 18 months to work on a proposed project, which you apply for when you submit your application. Next. So the Urban and Neighborhood Commercial Corridor Initiative is a new component to this. So it's a lot like the Frontier Native American Communities Initiative, except this is more focused in population with cities with populations over 50,000. And these are like commercial districts or neighborhoods that are within an urban area. So this is a new pilot program. This is the first time we're trying this. It's essentially very similar to the Native American Community and Frontier Community Initiative, but now this is being available in an urban setting. So this is our first time trying it out, and we're welcoming all applicants for that. So next slide. The project guidelines. So here's some just general stuff about what we're looking for and how to think about how to use this service. So proposed projects must demonstrate some kind of job creation, business development, and leverage private sector investment or enhance the community's economic environment. And we'll go a little more into some details on that in the next couple of slides, but also we'll have some examples for you as well. So if you get accepted into the program, what you're receiving is free professional services and guidance from our folks that we have on staff, and access to a lot of the materials and resources we provide to communities. There is no funding attached to this, although depending on your project, there may be programs that you can apply to external to this that will help fund the program or project. But it's important to note that this doesn't give you any funds to actually commit to do the project. And so really what looking for and what you need to have in place is a stakeholder group of volunteers and a local government partner to be able to implement the project and see the work through. Yeah, next slide. So what we mean by technical assistance is provided through our revitalization specialists, and they're focusing 3 or 4 major sort of components of how we sort of do our work. One is in economic vitality, one is promotion, organization, and design. But most it's important to note, professional design services provided through our work is only conceptual. Projects requiring a licensed architect or engineer or construction documents may be ranked lower than projects that can be self-initiated. So not that we don't want to go away from design projects, it's just this is not the place where you can necessarily get what you need to go ahead and get some construction documents and do a full-fledged project like that, but we can help you get to that. And also Frontier Community Partners have access to our Main Street Institutes. Are the urban programs going to have that too?
Yeah, I probably missed that part. Yeah, it should be both. Everybody will have access to all our institutes, workshops, and conferences free of charge.
Right.
minus
So
a small fee, yeah.
they're great opportunities for communities to meet and network with each other and learn from each other about what everybody's doing in terms of the strategies, and to pick up some new ideas for what to do next in your community. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, we do a lot of our work around this 4-point approach. I'll go through these really quickly so you can get sort of a general idea what these concepts mean. So the organization work is really based on building a organizational capacity. So these are things where we can help you train staff and volunteers, help you figure out fundraising goals and look for grant opportunities, that kind of thing, and build a relationship with your local municipality. Um, Design is about physical design, improving the overall appearance of a district. Could be even preservation based strategies, so working on your historical assets or historical buildings. We can help you with that and get ideas on how to do that kind of work and help you get that started. Promotions is really about bringing people to a district, bringing people back, or bringing visitors to spend money in your district. And it's really about building the appropriate image and figuring out how to market yourself that takes advantage of your unique assets in your community. And then economic vitality is really to restore the economic value in your community. It helps you think strategically about your economy and how it fits in regionally, and what makes the most sense in terms of business retention and development strategies. And there's tons of different kinds of projects that kind of work in that area there too. Next slide. So some eligible projects, I'll just go through a few of these and sort of mention maybe what kind of point it touches in terms of our 4 points. So placemaking could be redevelopment of a plaza, park, um, courthouse square, something like that. It could also be landscape design for your district or a particular area where people gather. Um, and there's sort of, street kind of improvements you could do. So you do bicycle lanes, enhanced sort of public pedestrian safety kind of things that make your district easier to walk and make people feel comfortable exploring your district. Also doing wayfinding design to help people get to from point A to point B, and also finding the appropriate attractions and things that they may be interested in. Facade improvement programs is a popular one. It really helps businesses improve their frontage spaces and improves the overall feeling in the district. Um, and we also do real estate and property development kind of projects. We can help you sort of figure out what's feasible in your community, help you figure out how to really get into development as a community initiated project, and then historic preservation and enhancement work, which is really looking at historic buildings, learning how to navigate the sort of the regulations around dealing with those kinds of buildings, and how to fundraise and use those spaces in a way that's going to be sustainable. Next slide. Um, so there's also redevelopment revitalization plans. So you might be in a place where you have lots of different ideas, but don't necessarily know how to go about it and what's the first steps that you might be able to take. A lot of this work takes years to get done and get completed. And it's sometimes really good to start with developing a plan for your area and bring together the different stakeholders in your local municipality to sort of agree on and create consensus on what should be the focus of your work. There's all kinds of projects that are involved helping local businesses build their capacity to be entrepreneurs. And in terms of the creative economy, um, we can look at what you have locally in terms of your artists and your cultural facilities, and figure out a way to make it all work together to make it an attraction for your district. And again, in promotion, it's really about promoting your image and creating a branding that really works for your community. And a lot of it is tourism related. And yeah, this time, like events and those kinds of things that can really help promote your district.
Great. Thanks, Lucas. And I think it's important to note, we, as a Main Street program, we kind of think of the work as holistic. That's why we kind of focus on the 4 points, because a lot of time district development takes all 4. But we understand that, in this case, because it's going to be project based, it may only touch 1 or 2 of those points, and that's fine. Because the whole idea is just to work and build capacity and hopefully, finish one project and then, try to do another. Or many of our programs that have gone through this is our first time doing the urban one, but through the Frontier Native American Communities Initiative, we've had a number of programs that started as a Frontier program and became a full-fledged Main Street program when we had resources to open that up. And I could say like Santa Rosa is one of them. They went through the initiative and end up applying to be a full Main Street program, and we were able to help them set up that capacity and develop a metropolitan redevelopment area plan. I think when we were working with them, that already set them up to be a good Main Street program. As Lucas said, these are just some of the types of projects we've done in the past. We do have a architect that does help with facade improvements. He can do, especially if it's community initiated, where you bring in like a group of folks to do just hands-on work. A lot of it's painting. We provide paint schematics so that it's appropriate for the community and the district. When we are doing these, we usually try to attach, as Lucas said, it's not a direct grant program, but we do have funding partners that we try to attach, seed funding to those projects when we get the opportunity. So sometimes we can get smaller grants to buy paint materials and other things to help the project move and really try to get volunteers to help do some of the work. This one was a Frontier Community Project in 2015 in Cuesta. It started off as an empty lot that the community really wanted to create more of a useful space. This was just a hands-on placemaking project. I think it was done for around $5,000. I think we got a $5,000 grant to help the community do this, and most of it was just in materials, but the work was all done by volunteers. And we tend to love like these really good making projects that include active participation from community members. This is more the downtown master / metropolitan redevelopment area plan project that we did in Santa Rosa. And this started off with just looking at more of a revitalization plan. But, what we helped with was doing a district designation for an MR plan. And we worked with the local government and the New Mexico Finance Authority to get $50,000 to actually hire a contractor that would do the whole plan itself. And we've done a number of these, especially in our frontier, smaller communities. I believe Lordsburg, we did one for Cuesta, Santa Rosa, Carrizoso. A lot of them, we can get funding through different mechanisms that will help again if we're doing these type of revitalization plans or master plans. But they often just help set up, they go through a community process, help set up what the work should be moving forward. And we usually work with the local community to get them adopted by the local government so that they work in tandem to actually implement these projects over time. This one was more of a streetscape in Hurley. This is one of our early projects, I think, that we started initially. This is a frontier project in Mountain Air. It was a plaza or a space they turned into the plaza. They got a lot of it, again, was just community initiated work with us helping with the design, a lot of the how-to and a little bit of funding. I think we were able to get about $15,000 for this project through various sources. Again, those are just samples of what we've done. I think, it's important to know that when we get applications, sometimes they're just work in progress. They can shift depending on where things are with the community, but it is important to go through a few steps, I think, just to make sure to put before, as you're putting through the application. We are here to work with anybody. I know myself, Lucas is always open to talk through projects if we need to, if you have an idea and we want to flesh it out even before the application is submitted. We can even bring in our revitalization specialists. We have 9 I think 9 specialists that range from historic preservation, entrepreneurial development, property redevelopment, um, architect, landscape architect, promotion specialist, graphic design, um, organizational development. So we have a lot of professionals that have done work all over the state in our Main Street communities, and they're always open to helping flesh out projects. And it's a good way for us to say, let you know whether it's something we can do or not, right? Because of course we are limited by the expertise that we have as a program and through our staff and revitalization specialists. But next steps, and there will be opportunity for questions and answers after this. But the next steps is really is establishing a team to that task force that wants to work with us, right? And we like that to be a combination of representatives from the local government partner, and that could be many, many different entities, because we know, especially in rural communities, there's not a, there's not a always a established local government. Sometimes it could be a COG, council of government. It could be a SECIA association, whatever the local, government or group is. We just wanted to be a combination of that and local stakeholders. I think we asked for at least a minimum of 5 members of that initial team, and that can grow as the work grows. But we just need to know that if we're going to go into community, we have a combination of people committed to moving the work forward, right? Second part is identifying a project, and again, we are open to that. And again, we know we'll often get applications that have really good potential, but it may shift, and we can work with that as well once we know we're going to be committed to working in the community. If there are any, if it's like a private property that you're asking for some help with, we do want to make sure that there's, we got commitments from not only local government that for funding, potential funding, or you know, adding resources, but also from the property owner that we have permission to work on that property, right? Those things are important, and getting those before you submit the application. Again, engaging technical assistance through us in the planning process is usually really, really helpful. And we found that the folks that we've talked to prior to submitting an application, they tend to be stronger applications and have a stronger chance. And it's not just, we've gotten certainly the accepted applications with people we haven't, or into the program that we haven't talked to, but they tend to be stronger applications when we really know what the work is and whether it's something we can actually do or not. So talking with us is always important. And then, following that forward is creating the teams, and usually that's when you're accepted in the program. We will assign a revitalization specialist to oversee the project and provide technical assistance. And sometimes it would be one person to start with, but they can bring others in if it's a multifaceted project, especially if it covers multiple points in terms of how we try to engage, around the 4 points of revitalization. And then finally, just to execute the project in a 12 to 18 month time frame, right? And I know we've had this past year, this has been a weird year just because of nobody has really been able to travel. And we do have, I think, 4 current projects that, were delayed. So we know we do consider these type of things. We don't always get them done in 18 months. Like in this case, we're pushing them back because, we kind of pretty much lost a year, but we're okay with that. And that's negotiable depending on where things are. But I think the main thing is we like to set a time frame because we have finite resources to put towards these, but we also want to see things get done. We don't want them to just sit and languish. We want to move them forward as quickly as possible. Just a couple things to touch in on the application. Just make sure that we have you have the contact info for both the local partner, government partner, and stakeholder group. Because we need to make sure that there's a partnership there, and how to connect folks if we have any questions as we go through the application. But we do also want that community context and project information. It's helpful for us to kind of understand what the situation is, what you're really asking for, and just the project exploration part is more just the whatever has been done. We don't want to recreate the wheel. There's already planning documents already there. The project's already been identified. We just want to know, so we could look at those, and that would help us move the project forward versus starting from scratch. So all those things are important. Again, the type of assistance needed, if you have any funding identified, very, very important. And also, if having some type of nonprofit partner or sponsor. And sometimes if the community doesn't have one, we can help find one. But it's usually, we don't expect that nonprofit to run the project. It's really the stakeholder and local government. But we often have access to private funding or nonprofit funding, foundation funding that we need to move. And they won't give it to a local government, but they would give the funding. We could funnel it through a local nonprofit. So that's why we ask you to identify a nonprofit partner in case we can find some funding to move the project forward. Again, how many, I'm sure the question is, how many programs are we going to accept, or projects we're going to accept? It all depends on the availability of our contractors and or revitalization specialists, and especially in terms of what the project is in. If I get 10 design projects, we can't do 10 design projects, but we can do some design, some promo, possibly some EV projects, because I could split people up. But typically we like to, I anticipate 4 to 6, depending on the type of resources it's going to take. So again, unfortunately, it has to be a competitive process in some ways, because as much as we want to help everybody, we are limited in resources ourselves. But in the past, I would say we usually took in about 7 a year. So we were doing about 15 at any one time, plus all our other programs that we work with. But it really will depend on what the applications that come in, and how much resources each project would take. So we will be anticipating that. The application due date is June 16th, and it has to be a firm date. It is, we used to require, I think, hard copies of the things. We don't know more. It's just through email. So just make sure you submit it to both myself and Lucas there, and our contact information is both on the application that went out. And make sure you do confirm that it was received. And we anticipate, going through them fairly quickly, the applications, and making announcements, by July of 2022, and getting these actually started in, summer, fall, depending on where my other folks are on other projects. But we are looking to get started as soon as possible. We also understand that there could be delays just based on, the pandemic and any restrictions that may be applied on travel or social gatherings in the future. So keep that open. With that, I do want to just give everybody a chance to ask any questions of us, any thoughts, or we're open to whatever you have. If you have one, just unmute yourself if you can.
Go ahead.
There was a question saying if we can see past applications.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing past applications. I can pull some up that were successful. If you send me or Lucas, a request, we can certainly do that.
Okay, then there was another question. I didn't see the name, but somebody asked something.
Hi, this is Haley from the Village of Tejares. I just had a quick question. We're looking at applying for a historic preservation project. And I'm wondering, you talked about looking to, have secured funding possibly already, or I guess opportunities that you've identified for funding. Is that critical to the application? Or is that something that we can get support doing through the project?
That's something you can get support. If there is any, prior, commitments, it's helpful just to know, because we know it can be a stronger one because we know if we put some resources in that it's gonna get done, right? But no, depending on what that is, if it's a, district designation or building designation or rehab type, because, we can certainly help apply, like you work through different opportunities, and that could be part of it, right? Because some of these, and that's why I say like some of the, especially the conceptual stuff when it comes to design, a lot of it's just preparing the project to get funding, right? So you can actually get the construction documents or the funding to implement the project. So that would certainly qualify. Any other questions? Looking for the...
Yes, this is Nancy Montano from the West Central Community Development Group. Now, this project, because towards the end, you're saying that you were going to select frontier projects, so many, 6 or 7. Are you including the urban?
Yeah, so
with that?
Yes, so this is our first time doing the urban, and I want to get a good mix, right? And it really depends again on the scale of the projects. In the past, we usually took in about 7 Frontier Native American community projects. I'm trying to see how that's going to play out. If budget-wise, I think we're in good shape. We're flat compared to last year. So it really will depend on, I want to do at least 2 urban program or projects. That's the minimum, but it'll be a mix of both just depending on the applications that come in.
Hi,
Also, okay.
I have a question. Is there like a value associated with how much would be allocated to certain projects, or is that based on the project scope? Or
Yeah, it tends to be based on the project scope. I can say in the past, just because we've been doing this for a number of years, granted on more of a rural basis, the value based in terms of technical assistance and time we put in can range anywhere from 20,000 to, upwards of not just us, but if we get 50,000 from the New Mexico Finance Authority, it could be up to 70, 80,000, depending on what the project is, right? And again, or if we are able to get some foundation or nonprofit funding in there as well. So it can range, and it all depends on the size of the project. That's why when I look at the scopes, when we, select programs, we can kind of get a good idea of how much it's going to take to put in. So if, we feel we can do more, then we'll do more. But I like to leave it just as going in, I'm saying 4 to 6 just because I don't know what we're going to get yet, right?
and as far as like the application response, the format of that, it's in a Word document. So I'm assuming that it's just kind of a reply in text. Like it doesn't need to be very, if we have graphics, can that be included as well?
It certainly can be included. I believe they're rich text boxes, I believe. So you should be able to insert, pictures or documents that you want, or just add them to the end, right? Of the application. It's fine. We'll review them. We do try to keep the responses to a minimum because we're going to probably be reading through a lot of them. So we like people to be as succinct as possible, but anything you think that enhances it, yeah, we certainly include.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to point out real quick is we have Tim Hageman on the chat. He's shared his contact information. So if you're a Native community, Native American community, he can help review your project and your application as well. So thank you for sharing your info, Tim.
Yeah, I see Max on as well. He's another one of our community regional development representatives. He represents Albuquerque, and he's a former Main Street manager. So if you're in an urban program, he was running an urban program. Boston, was it, I believe? He would be a good person to talk to as well.
So this is Nancy again. I have another question for you. I know with the Main Street applications, you require funding from the local government. So you're not requiring this. Is this something perhaps, do you think would be a good thing that we could maybe touch base with our local officials to see if they'd be willing to help with this? Or
yeah,
what's your view on that? How's it separate, and how can we explain it in terms of it not being Main Street?
Sure. So the thing with like a full Main Street program, we were focused on an entire district, right? Not just a single project. And we understand that type of work takes a dedicated local program, Main Street program to implement and develop it. So we do require funding from the local governments in that case to help with the operation cost to actually implement that work. And that's usually done through a service contract, right? This is different because the whole idea is here, we're looking at communities that may not be ready for that, right? Or the local government may not have the funding, but we can, as opposed to focusing on the whole district, we're just focusing on one project. And we can do that with volunteers, a stakeholder group and the local government, if they can dedicate any funding towards that project. But it doesn't have to be in the same way like the full Main Street program, where it's through a service contract providing funding for the organization. This, if they do have funding, it certainly can, help increase the application if we know there's some funding dedicated to the project, right? But it could be a project that they're already doing. Again, I hope that explains.
Yeah, I guess it's because I know we have in the West Central area, we've been waiting for Main Street, and that hasn't happened, and we actually had the city council had actually appropriated funds for West Central Main Street if that ever happens. So I'm kind of looking at it as maybe we can go to the council and ask them for a little bit of dollars to help us with the development of this project.
Yeah, and just to be, and I believe I've met with some folks from there over the summer. But I mean, it could, like I said, this could lead to a Main Street designation. It's because, as you know, in Albuquerque, we have South Valley, Bareilles, Nob Hill, and downtown. Right. We would certainly be open to extending that, but this could be a perfect way to build some capacity, get some some recognition and some wins even with the council to do a Main Street program as we open up. And typically these are easier for us to do because when we do a new Main Street program, it takes a lot more resources for us to get them started up, right? And from the local government. So this is actually a really good way just to develop some capacity and get some early wins.
Right. And we've been in touch with the Economic Development Department in Albuquerque, so they're aware that this program is coming up. And we've also talked to the Economic Development Department in Santa Fe. But if you're in another municipality, we'd be happy to talk to their departments about this as well and try to get the conversation going. So please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
So there's Liz Camacho asked, what was the motivation behind opening up the two urban areas?
So it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I know our prior director, Rich Williams, wanted to start just an urban program in Albuquerque, but the resources just weren't there. I know I was a director in Bareilles when we applied to be a Main Street program there. So we started it, and I know as a state program, we are limited in resources, and I know as well as the city of Albuquerque in terms of dedicating, the funding for a full-fledged Main Street program. But I know over the years there's been a huge need, and I've had a lot of people approach me in different neighborhood corridors that just wanted to pool. They were just looking for some help, right, on how to get there. And I still sit on the neighborhood association of downtown, so it's like I know what it's like in Albuquerque and other areas that or just smaller in scale, right? So not just thinking of downtown, there's all these other pockets. So the idea is, how can we help them in the same way these communities that may never be a full Main Street program, but we can still help them with economic development projects, and move that work forward and build capacity. So it's something we've been thinking about for a while. A, a big part of our resources do go to rural communities because they tend to need it more. But I still think there's a huge need in some of these smaller communities within urban areas. And I've always been a big proponent because, like I said, we started the program in Morelos. I live downtown, so I know there's still a need there as well.
Okay, so there's another question. What criteria should we use when deciding on the business corridor to focus on?
So in terms of scale, or I mean, we're looking at, so we don't, our focus is economic development, so we don't do neighborhood housing or those type of things. It should be some kind of commercial corridor, right? Whether it's like 4th Street, North 4th Street, San Pedro, there's whatever is the core of your area, right? That's where you want to really focus on, because through Main Street, the focus is downtown, but we know urban areas have like little downtowns, distributed in different areas. And if you're a rural community, then you're really focusing on whatever the core area of your commercial district is.
Yeah, so someplace where there's a little, where you do your shopping, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and where you want to enhance that environment around there to draw more people in.
Exactly.
I have a quick question regarding the stakeholder groups. I'm wondering what other projects makeup of stakeholder groups have looked like, just so I can get a better idea of like who we
Sure.
might group.
So local business owners, it could be a nonprofit, representatives of nonprofits in your area that want to contribute to the project. It could be a community member. They don't even have to be it could be a community member that wants to see something done in their downtown or commercial district, right? It's up to you. We don't want to tell you what it should be. We want it to be a diverse group, and we want them to have a stake in it, right? And again, we don't want too many. Well, we want some local government partners, but we don't want it to all be local government. We need, Main Street's more of a self-help community engagement program, so we want some non-government stakeholders as part of it.
So there was a question in the chat. It was asking if, like in Santa Fe, they have various commercial corridors, and they're asking if they can only submit one application, but we are accepting multiple applications per city. You just have to be working with, different groups in those areas. And
Correct.
we'll review.
Correct. You just want to make sure if you're submitting for a community that there's stakeholders in that actual community.
That could lead the project.
Exactly. All right. Well, if there's not any more questions, I appreciate everybody's time, and again, feel free to call myself or Lucas if you have any questions. As you go through the application, we are both, I know, very, very willing. Or you can, if you have an idea, and if you've seen our website, nmmainstreet.org. We do have a contact list of not only our staff for the state program, but also all of our revitalization specialists. And, it has their background and their specialties. And their contact information. So if you have an idea in design, feel free to look on there as well, and contact them, because I know they are always open and willing to talk you through a project as well. So, and either myself or Lucas can certainly point you to somebody as well if that's necessary. So, and again, reach out to your regional rep. If from EDD, they are super helpful. I know in the past Tim has connected us with a lot of frontier and Native American community projects. So.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and please don't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.